Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to my um channel. I'm gonna start at 2 p.m. So you guys just wait for 40 minutes and then we'll officially start, but I'm just gonna just get ready now. So I just need 3 more minutes. We'll start at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So hi everyone. I'm gonna officially start at 2 p.m. That's in 3 minutes. So I'm just gonna wait 2 more minutes and then I will start. Hope that everyone is having a great day. I live in Menlo Park and it's a sunny day out, so that's exciting. Um, so I guess okay, so I'm gonna start in 1 minute, but today what I'm going to do is I'm gonna talk about some positions, and that's gonna help you out in your chess game. So we'll wait 1 more minute. If you have a question, just go ahead and just type it in the chat box. That would be great. So we're still waiting. We got 1 more minute. Hi everyone. Um, Okay, you guys, it's officially 2 p.m. So I'm going to officially start right now. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Goodkind, and I am a chess teacher in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I live in Menlo Park. And if you don't know who I am, I've been teaching chess to kids and adults for the last 10 years. I've also written two chess books. One is 50 Poison Pieces, and since chess is a male-dominated game, I also have written Queen for a Day, the Girl's Guide to Chess Mastery. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to go ahead and teach you guys how to play this in-game position. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type something in the chat box so I can read it. So in this position, white has a knight, a pawn, and this king, and black only has a king. So it seems like this is an easy win for white, but unfortunately, white still has to be very careful. I remember about 5 to 7 years ago, I remember that one of my students had a position like this, and my student had the white pieces, but was not able to win. Um, so what we're going to okay, so it's white to move, and obviously what we want to do in this position is we want to obviously promote this pawn to a queen. So I think a good next move is to like move the king over to g2 because the king needs to help out the pawn. So let's say that the king goes here. We're gonna continue to move the king over to g3, and then this is a good move because it's controlling these two squares in front of this pawn. So that's very good. Let's say that the king goes here. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and just push this pawn up because, again, we want this pawn to become a queen on h8. And then let's say that that king goes to h6. We're going to go ahead and move the king over to g4. And then remember, this king is still controlling the h5 square. This king goes here. We're going to go ahead and just continue to push the pawn. So this is good. And then let's say that the king goes to h6. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to chat, write something in the chat box so I can read it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and we can also just like maybe move the knight over here, and then we have to just continue to push this king back. So let's say that the king goes here. Obviously, it's not safe for this pawn to go to h6 because then black's king can just capture the pawn. So because of that, we need to just simply just move the king over to g5. So that's great. And let's say that the black king goes here. We're gonna continue to push the pawn up because again we want to promote the pawn to a queen. So let's say that the king goes here, and now we have to be very careful because um, we need to always ask, if I move here, where is my opponent going to do? So a natural looking move is to move this king over to g6. This looks like a good move, right? Because this king is controlling the square. But if you think about it, if we move king to g6, this king is not in check, and this king has nowhere to go. So this is actually stalemate. So because of that, we need to do something besides moving the king to g6. So what do we do? Okay, well, obviously, we want the king to go to g6 because we want the king to control the h7 square. So I think it would be good to move the knight. So let's just simply we can simply just move the knight. Let's move the knight over to d5. I think that would be good. Okay, so the king is gonna go here. That's okay. Again, we can't just move the king over to g6. So we're gonna do a waiting move. So we can simply move the knight again. Maybe we can move the knight over to c7, or we can move the knight to f4, or any of these squares is fine. But we can also just move the king over to h5, and then the king, let's say that the black king goes to h8, and then we can simply just move the king over to g6. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just type something in the chat box, and they'll be happy to read it. Okay, so let's say that the king goes to g8. That's actually black's only move. And then now, um, some people might say like, "Hey, let's check the king with the pawn, and yeah, by moving the pawn to h7. This looks like a good move, right?" But if you think about it, moving the pawn to h7 is a huge mistake. Obviously, the black king is going to go to h8, because again, if the king goes to f8, then this pawn can just become a queen. So because of that, the black king is going to go to h8. But then how do we continue as white, right? If this king goes to h6, then this is going to be stalemate, right? Well, how about this knight? Can this knight do anything right now? No, it cannot. So white has a big problem. I mean, because if we move the knight anywhere, it's still gonna be stalemate. And if we move this king here, then it's still gonna be stalemate. And another problem is if we move the king over to g5 or any of these squares right here, then black can just simply just take the pawn. And that's not gonna be good because um I don't know if you guys know, but you cannot checkmate with just a knight and a king. That's not possible. So because of that, moving the pawn to h7 is a mistake. So the question is, what do we do? How can we win in this position? Do you guys have any ideas? So you guys can go ahead and write something in the chat box if you have any ideas like what to do right now. So I'll wait. So I'm on the YouTube. If you type something in the YouTube chat box, I will be able to read it. So the question is, how do we win in this position? So moving the pawn to h7, that's a mistake. So I don't see anything. So I'm gonna just talk about how to win. Um, so the pawn. So okay. So it says knight. So Madavi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. You said knight to f6. Okay. Um, okay, so if we go to knight to f6, then we can move. Okay, so let's say obviously this king doesn't want this pawn to promote. So the king is going to go here. But now the problem is, we can't safely just push this pawn to h7 because if we do that, it's still going to be stalemate, right? Um, so so knight, yeah, so we can go knight f6 right now, but we need to do something more. Any other ideas right now? I can give you guys a hint if you want. Okay, so Snap says get the knight to f7, and that's absolutely correct. If you notice right now, we're only controlling the h7 square, and notice that the pawn, it becomes a queen on h8, but we're not controlling the h8 square. So because of that, we need to get our knight and control the h8 square. That's the queening square. So Snaps, you're absolutely correct. We need to get the knight over to f7. So what how do we get the knight to f7? Um, do you guys have any ideas how we're gonna get the knight over to f7? So it's gonna take a couple moves, but that's okay. Okay. So you guys, okay. So I'm still waiting. So we can go to there is yeah, there's a couple ways we can do this. So JJ Liu says knight to e4, knight to g5, and then knight to f7. So that's correct. Yep, very good. I like that. Snap says h7, g5, and then f7. So that's great. Um, the knight can also go knight to d7, knight to e5, and then f7. So this is a beautiful thing about chess. Sometimes there's more than one way to accomplish something. So JJ Liu, I'm gonna just go ahead and follow what you wrote. You said knight to e4. So I'm gonna go ahead and go knight to e4, and then black's only move is to go king to g8, and then JJ New says knight to g5. Okay, we're gonna go knight to g5. Also notice that the knight can also go knight to d6 to get to f7. So either way is fine. JJ New says knight to g5, so I'm gonna go ahead and move the knight to g5. Obviously the black king should go to h8, and then now we can simply just move the knight over to f7, and this is great. The knight is checking the king, and it's very important for this white king to control the h7 square because the black king cannot go to h7. So black's only move is to go g8, and then now this is very straightforward. We're gonna go ahead and move the pawn to h7, and notice that black's only move is king to f8, and then now guess what? We can successfully promote this pawn to a queen, and this is fantastic. So black's only move is here, and then it should be checkmate very, very soon. We can simply just like perhaps we can like move the queen over to e5, and then let's say that the king goes to f8, then we can simply just move the queen over to e6, and then if the king goes here, then we can do checkmate by moving the queen to e8, or we can also move the queen over to c8. So I like this move. So this is checkmate. So that's how you win in this position. So the key takeaway points is you gotta make sure that um, you this when you do this, you gotta make sure. Oopsie, sorry. You gotta make sure that this king is controlling the squares in front of this pawn. That's very, very important. And then you move the king needs to go to g6, and then the king needs to control the h7 square, and then you have to remember, before you move the pawn to h7, then you gotta make sure that the knight and needs to be on f7, so it can control the queening square, okay? So let me just give you another example. So sometimes now if you have a pawn on the A file, the concept is the same, but it's just on the other side. So if you're playing if you're playing this on this side, then that means in order to win, the pawn if the pawn is on A6, then your king needs to be on b6, so it will control the a7 square, and then this knight on e2, it needs to be on c7. So that's what you need to do if you're playing if the pieces are on this side of the board, but the concept is the same. So do you guys have any questions about that? Feel free to ask me any questions. I'm just happy to help you guys out. So I don't see any questions. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to another position. So let's move on. So the next position is this. So this is a very interesting position right now. So in this position, it is white to move, and notice that white has 5 pawns. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. White also has a queen and a bishop, and black has 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 pawns, and black has 2 rooks. So because of that, white is in a winning position, and black's king does not look too good right now. This queen and this bishop, they're close to this king. So white should do a checkmate very, very soon. So, do you guys know what the first move should be? What should White's first move be? Any ideas? So you guys go ahead and write something in the chat box if you have any ideas. What should White's first move be? Okay. Okay. So I got okay, one person, JJ Lewis says Bishop X. Yep. Okay. Oh wait. Um Yep, okay, yeah. So that's correct. If we talk more about this, um, some people are tempted to take the pawn with the queen because the queen is the most powerful piece. But there is a problem with this move. If we take the pawn with the queen, then black is gonna go black's only move is to go king to f8. And then if you notice right now, this king is going to escape, right? Yes. So, um, so, it's like how do we continue in this position? If the queen goes here, then that's it. The king is going to escape right now. So this is white is still in a winning position, but um it's gonna just take a it's gonna take much longer to win right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take that back right now. If you really think about this, in this position, this king cannot escape right now because this queen is controlling the f8 square. So because of that, this king is just stuck right over here. The best move is we're gonna go ahead and take the pawn with the bishop, and with this move, it forces the king to go to h8, and this is black's only move. So if you notice right now, guess what? The king can't escape to the f8 square, right? So this is actually very good. And then now, it's white to move. How do we continue? There's a couple of moves that we can do, but there's only one. I mean, there's one very good continuation right now. You want to when you're playing chess, you want to consider all checks. That's very, very important. So there's many checks. The queen, the bishop, and king, they're all on the same line. So we gotta consider, like, we want to move this bishop. So if you notice right now, this bishop can go here, 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 here. The bishop can also go here, but we need to calculate like which one is the best move. So some people think like, oh, let's move the bishop over to e4. If we move the bishop to e4, then the bishop would be attacking the rook, and then the queen would be checking the king. This would be a good move. But one tip for you is if you see a good move, then look for a better one. So Madavi says bishop to g6. And yep, that's correct. The best move is we're going to go ahead and go bishop to g6. And um, you might be asking, yeah, but this doesn't threaten anything. Actually, it does. This bishop is attacking the pawn on f7. If we think about this, black's only move is to go to g8. And then after that, um, we're going to go ahead and move this queen. And when you're playing chess, you want to move the queen as close as possible to your opponent's king. And of course, it must be safe. So we're going to go ahead and move the queen closer. We're going to go to queen to h7, and it is safe because of this bishop. The only move is to move the king over to f8, and then the checkmate I see in the chat box is queen goes to f7, and this is checkmate thanks to this bishop and queen. So I think that this is a very nice position. So the key takeaway is if you have a position like this, you want to capture the pawn with the bishop instead of the queen. So just remember, if you take, I mean, again, each position is different, but if you take the pawn with the queen, then the king is going to escape, and this is going to be more difficult for white. So you gotta make sure that you take the pawn with the bishop. The only move is to go here. And then we're gonna go ahead and move the king, or I'm sorry, move the bishop to g6, and then move the king over to g8, and then move the queen closer to black's king. Move here, and then move the king. Okay, so the king has to move to f8, and then the queen goes to f7, and that's a checkmate. Do you guys have any questions about this position? So if you guys have any questions, feel free to write something in the chat box. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So I'm still waiting. Still waiting, still waiting. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat box, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and create a new analysis. I'm going to go ahead and set up a position. So I don't have you guys been playing in tournaments for a while? I hope that this is not too easy, or I hope this is not too difficult. But I can go more advanced right now. Um I can show you guys something fun. Um I'll show you guys something fun. A lot of people, I'm gonna show you how to do the I can show you guys the basic king, knight, and bishop checkmate, because not a lot of people know how to do this. If so, let me just set this up right now. Okay. Um okay. So the position is okay, so do you guys know how to checkmate with the king, knight, and the bishop versus just the king right now? I'm gonna make this simple, okay? So we're gonna start right here. I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to go over everything, but I'm gonna just teach you guys the basics on how to do this. So it's gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and load the position right now. Okay, so you can force a checkmate with a knight and a bishop. So we have a white square bishop, and because of that, we have to force this king over to a8, because a8 is a white square and we have a white square bishop. If we have a dark square bishop, then we have to force the king over to h8. So okay, so we're gonna move on. And what do you guys think the first move should be? So I'm gonna give you guys a hint. We need to force this king over to e8. So how do we do that? How can we force the king over to e8 right now? So go ahead and just type something in the chat box. Okay, bishop to h7. That's correct. We're gonna go ahead and move the bishop to h7. And the reason why we're gonna go ahead and do this is because this bishop is controlling the g8 square. Because of that, it forces the king over to e8. And that's what we want, because again, our ultimate goal is to get the king over to a8. So this is great. Okay, so now we gotta figure out, what is our second move going to be? Do you guys have any idea what to do? So feel free to type something in the chat box. Otherwise, I can tell you guys what to do. Okay, okay. So I'm gonna give you guys I'll give you guys a hint. When you have a Okay, so Snap says move the king. Um, so Madavi says king to G7. Okay, knight fight. So when you have a knight and a bishop, um, the knight it goes in an L shape. Okay, so that's very, very, very important. So if the king and knight, if they're one square apart, then that's your sign to know like, hey, let's move the knight. Okay. So remember the knight goes in an L shape. So we're gonna simply just move the knight over to E5. Okay, so there's many ways. Okay, so it's black's move. Let's say that the king goes to F8, and then what do you think we should do now? You guys have any idea? So right now, notice that this bishop and then this king, notice that these pieces are controlling these squares. So the king and bishop, they're doing a good job. So we're gonna continue to do the L formation, or the think of it it's a W formation, right? So it's a zigzag formation. So we're gonna simply just move the knight over to D7, and then notice that Black's only move is to go king to E8. And do you guys have any ideas on what to do now? Knight to D7. So what do you think we should do? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, and right now the king, it is yeah, we're gonna go king to E6. Right now, the king, it is attacking, this knight, so we definitely need to do something about it. We're gonna go ahead and just simply just move the king over, to E6, and this is great because notice this king now is controlling, these 3 squares. The king is protecting the knight, and then notice that, um, Black's only move is to go king to D8, and then what do you think we should do now? Any ideas right now? So, okay. Um, so just yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and just move the king. We're gonna go ahead and just move the king over back to D6. And notice now the king is still controlling these 3 squares. So that is great. Let's say that the king tries to go back to E6. And then what do you think we should do now? So I'm just waiting. So we're gonna simply just move the bishop to G6. It's very important to pay attention to what squares you're controlling. Notice that this king cannot yes. So the king cannot go to F8 because of this knight. And then notice that this king is controlling this square, this bishop is controlling F7, and then it's checking the king on E8. So that means that Black's only move is to go king to D8. And then what do you think we should do now? Any idea? So again, our goal is to get this king to go to A8. So what should we do in this position? Okay, so knight goes to F8. Okay, so remember what I said. When you move the knight it moves in a W shape. So it's not yeah, it's a little bit too soon to move the knight because again, in order to move the knight, the king and the knight they have to be one square diagonal. So So one person, okay, Snap says bishop to f7. Yep, we can go bishop to f7. We want to just do a waiting move with this bishop. This king definitely needs to stay here because it is controlling these three squares. So we're simply going to just move the bishop. We can go bishop to f7. We can also go bishop to h5. And it's very important for this bishop to stay on this diagonal because we still want this bishop to control the e8 square. So f7 is fine, but notice again, if we move this bishop to these squares, that's going to be a mistake because then this king can go back to e8. So we're going to simply just move the bishop to f7, so that's great. And then now we're going to go, and then Black's only move is king to c8. And then what do we do now? So I'm going to give you guys a hint. Look, the king and knight, they're one square apart. And they're one square diagonal from each other. So what do we do? So if the king and knight, if they're one square diagonal from each other, it's time. Okay, so you guys, so Madami says knight to b6. So as I told you before, the knight, it goes in a W formation. So that means that knight to b6. Okay, it's a good try, but not it doesn't work. We gotta move the knight back to c5. Okay, because remember, we still need to remember about this W formation. So again, the king can go to b8, and I can talk to you more about that, but I'm gonna go ahead and just focus on what happens if the king goes to d8. So king goes to d8, and then the pattern it continues. We're gonna simply move the king. I'm sorry, move the knight over to b7. And this is a good move because notice that the knight, it is checking the king. The bishop and the king, they're controlling these squares. So that means that the only move is for this black king to go to c8. And then what should we do now? Any idea? Any idea right now? Okay, we're gonna simply just again, then king is attacking this knight. We need to protect it, and we're simply just gonna go ahead and move the king over to c6. And now this king, it's protecting the knight. It's also controlling these squares too. So that's very, very good. Yep. And then notice that Black's only move is to move the king over to b8. And what should we do now? So notice, like, hey, we're getting closer to our goal. We want the king to go to a8. What do we do now? Bishop to e6. And snaps, that's correct. We're gonna simply just move the bishop to e6. And the reason why we're gonna go ahead and do this is because it stops this king from going to c8. So that's very, very important. Um, so, actually, you know what? I made a mistake right now. Sorry, I gotta wait. Let's take it back. Let's take that back right now. Um, we actually do not want to go bishop to e6. Sorry, I made a mistake right now. Sorry, bishop to e6 is actually it's a little bit too soon. Because if we notice right now, this king can go to a7 right now. We don't want the king to escape right now. So what do we do? So we're gonna simply just move the king to b6, and The reason why we're gonna go ahead and do this is because it stops the king from going to a7, right? So the problem right now is if we go bishop to e6, then the king is gonna escape to a7, and that's not gonna be good. So before we go bishop to e6, we go ahead and move the king to b6, and then if this king does try to escape to c8. Now we go bishop to e6, and then the bishop is checking the king. Okay, so black's only move is to go king to b8. And then notice, we're getting much closer to checkmate. And if you notice right now, it's a checkmate in 4. So this is actually very good. What do we do right now? Okay. So the move what we're gonna do is we're gonna simply just move um the knight over to c5. And the reason why we're gonna go ahead and do this is because we want the knight over to a6, and then eventually um we gotta just remove her the knight around. Okay. So notice that black's only move is to go king to a8, and then it's our turn. So right now, we do not want to go knight to a6, because if we go knight to a6 right now, this is going to be stalemate right now. So that's why it's important to ask, if I move here, where is my opponent going to do? So we're gonna and this king is on a really good square right now because it's controlling these 3 squares. So JJ Liu says knight to c5, a8, bishop to d7. Yes, so if you want to do a waiting move, then we're gonna simply just move the bishop, and um, we want this bishop to still control the c8 square, so we can move the bishop to d7, we can move it to f5, g4, and then h3. Okay, notice that we do not want to move the bishop to c8, because if we move the bishop to c8, then the king um can go to b8, and then the king is attacking the bishop, and then we have to move the bishop again. So because of that, we can simply just move the bishop here, 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 or here. I'm gonna go ahead and just move the bishop all the way to h3. So that's fine. Notice that black's only move is to go king to b8, and then now it's a checkmate in 2. So notice this king, it's doing a very good job controlling these squares. So we're gonna simply just move the knight over to a6. Now it does matter where this knight goes to. Okay, if we move the knight to d7, then this is going to be a mistake, because notice that the king can go to c8 right now, and then the king can just escape. And we don't want black's king to escape right now. That's why when we check, we're gonna simply just move the knight over to a6, because now the bishop, it's still controlling the c8 square. Black's only move is to go to a8, and notice that we're controlling all these squares. And then do you guys see the checkmate? Where's the checkmate? What's the checkmate right now? So the checkmate is we're gonna simply just move bishop to g2, and this is checkmate. So I'm gonna, yeah, this is a very beautiful checkmate. So notice that the king, the knight, and then the bishop, they're all working together as a team. right? So you have to, I guess you can think of it like as a sports team, right? Like if you play a sports, like a group sports team, like soccer or hockey, all the pieces, all the players, they all have to help each other out to accomplish like one goal. So you have to think of it like these chess pieces, they're all on one team and they all have to help each other out. And then the goal is to just checkmate the king. So um this is a very beautiful checkmate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just do a recap. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's go back. And then I want you to remember this, okay? You gotta remember is if you have a white square bishop, then you need to force the king over to a white square corner. So that's either A8 or H1. That's very, very important. The other thing you gotta remember is again, if you have a dark square bishop, then that means that you're gonna have to force the king over to H8 or A1. That's also very important. The other thing you gotta remember is the knight, it goes in a W formation. That's very, very important. So we're gonna just do a recap again. Um, since this king is on a dark square, we're gonna force this king over to A8, and we're gonna force the king over to E8. To E8. So we're gonna go ahead and move bishop to H7, and it stops this king from going to G8. Black's only move is king to E8. And then the other thing you gotta remember is look, if the king and knight, if they're one square diagonal from each other, that's your sign to move the knight back to backwards, right? Okay, so that's very, very important. So knight goes here. And then I'm thinking that maybe I'm gonna be here um um every day, Monday to Friday, from 2 to 3 p.m. And then I will talk about what happens if the king tries to escape this way. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a review like what you should do if the king goes to f8. If the king goes to f8, then remember knight goes in um, a W formation. So that means that we're gonna have to move the knight back to d7. The king goes here, and then we have to move the king, and the king is protecting it. And then the black's only move is to go king to d8. And then notice again, since the king and knight, since they're on the same line, it is too soon to move the knight. So what we have to do is notice this king can go to c7. We don't want the king to escape to c7. So we simply just move the king to d6. And then again, tomorrow from 2 to 3 p.m., I will show you what to do if the king tries to escape this way. But okay, so let's say that the king goes to e8, bishop goes here, and then again, the bishop's checking the king. Notice this king cannot go to f8 because of this knight. So the king goes here, and then again, is it time to move the knight? No, it's not. And the reason why it's not is because the king and knight, they're not one square diagonal from each other, right? So if the king, knight, and king, if they're all on the same line, it's time to just do a raiding move with the bishop again. And then when we move the bishop, we gotta make sure that this bishop is still controlling the e8 square. So the king cannot go to e8. So because of that, we can simply just move the bishop to f7, or we can also move the bishop to h5. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go bishop to f7. Black's only move is to go king to c8, and then look, we just got this pattern happened again. king and knight, they're one square diagonal from each other, and because of that, you know, like, hey, it's time to move the knight back, right? And then again, I will tell you what to do if the king tries to escape this way, but right now, let's say the king goes to d8. We're going to go ahead and simply just move the knight back, the knight to b7, and then notice, you know, we're controlling a lot of these squares, so that means that black's only move is to go king to c8. We're going to simply just move the king over to c8 to protect the knight. So that's great. And then black's only move is to go b8. And then right now, you have to remember, are we going to move the knight? No, because the king and knight, they're not one square diagonal. This king can escape to a7, and because of that, um, we're gonna have to move the king over to b6 because now the king it is controlling the a7 square. If the king goes to c8, we're gonna simply just move the bishop to e6, and then the bishop is checking the king. So again, notice how these pieces are helping each other out. That's very, very important. So black's only move is king goes to b8, and then again, um, we can move the knight back over to c5. We can also like move the bishop. We can also do a waiting move too. So let's say that we go bishop to g4. That's fine. We want this bishop to still control the c8 square. Black's only move is here, and then this is when like we definitely need to move the knight. We want to move the knight over to c7. So the correct pathway is knight to c5, a6, and then c7. So knight to c5, we're going to simply move the king over to b8. And then if you guys have any questions, like again, feel free to just write something in the chat box. Um, so we're gonna go ahead and just move the knight over to a6, and notice again this king cannot go to c8 because of this bishop, and then black's only move is here, and then we simply just move the bishop to f3, and then that's a checkmate. So I hope you found this to be useful. Not a lot of people know how to do this, so my recommendation is perhaps you can just practice this week. That would be great. And then tomorrow I will teach you what to do if the king goes the other way. So in this position, um you might be asking, okay, well, what happens if the king goes this way? I'm gonna teach you guys what to do. I'll teach you guys how to do this tomorrow. So you guys, yeah, so we're almost finished. You guys have any questions? So Snap says, how do you get the king to the edge of the board with the bishop and the knight? I can show you guys how to do that, but I'm not gonna have time. I can do that later on this week. But I want to just show you guys the basics first. But the king, the bishop, and the knight, they all have to work together. So that's very, very important. So I hope you guys are having a fun time at the chess camp. The other thing I wanted to just let you guys know, I don't know if Chris told you this or not, but every Monday night I host a chess tournament, and it starts at 7 p.m. And I hope you guys can play in tonight's this tournament. It should be very fun. There's people of all strengths. I remember, like I think the last, yeah, a couple of times there was like a like 2 people above 2,000, and then there were some people under 1,000, and then there were people, like, in the 1,000, so there's, like, it's a mixed range of people, which is fun. Um, so yeah, which is great. So we're gonna move on. I could show you guys. Let's see. Let me see. Okay, so we move on. Um, I can show you guys another quick puzzle right now. Um, I'll show you guys a quick puzzle right now. Um, okay. Let me set this up right now. Okay. Hope you guys are having a great time. I'm having a fun time doing this with you guys. Okay. This is a fun puzzle. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just okay, wait. Okay. Okay, so Madavi says that is 10 for me. I am in the Eastern time. I wish I could join. Okay, well, yeah, thanks for letting me know. So that's great. So remember, tomorrow I will teach you more of the knight and the bishop checkmate. Um, but right now, this is a quick puzzle. This is a checkmate in two. Do you guys see the checkmate in two right now? So I'm going to give you guys a hint that we're going to have to sacrifice a piece. Do you guys see the checkmate in two? So in chess, it's important to like sometimes think out of the box. So so this is an interesting position. If this rook was gone, then this queen can simply just go to g7, and then that's going to be a checkmate. But right now, there's a rook on g7, so the queen cannot go to g7. So what do we do in this position? Okay, yes. So that's the answer. So sometimes, so it's important to think ahead. In chess, so again, we're gonna have to sacrifice the rook right now. As I told you before, the queen wants to go to g7, but we cannot um yeah, the queen cannot go to g7 because of this rook. So we're gonna go ahead and simply just sacrifice the rook for the pawn. And yeah, so the king takes the rook, and then because of that, now the queen can just go to g7, and then that's a very beautiful checkmate. So just remember is, when you're playing chess, you want to always think ahead. You got to yeah, try to calculate. It depends on like what level you are. I think that if you're above 1,000, then my recommendation is to think of like 3 potential moves that you can make and then calculate. You also need to um consider all checks, captures, and threats. So that's very, very, very important. Um, so that's good. Um, so I hope that you guys are having a fun time, and I think we're almost done. So that's great. Um, so I think that this is the end of the chess camp. So I will see you guys tomorrow from 2 to 3 p.m. And then just remember, if you are free tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Feel free to play in my Blitz tournament. And this is the Blitz tournament. It's just very easy to join. Registration begins 1 hour before the event starts. So you can register at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it starts in about 4 hours. Um, and yeah, if you guys have any specific questions, like what you want, if you have any specific questions, like what you want to learn, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow, or I hopefully I'll see you guys tonight. So, okay, you guys, take care, everyone. Thank you very much.